Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome back to the channel. And I hope everyone's doing well this period of the year. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from the other ones which I've been doing, in that I'm going to be celebrating Fountain Pen Day in my own way by looking at the pens in my collection from around the world and some of my thoughts around these pens. This would be helpful even if you have many pens in your collection or you're just starting out in the fountain pen journey. Hopefully you'll get some insights. And for my channel, it'll be probably the second look for a lot of the pens which I've featured one by one over the last 2 years. So that's what the video is about. So the first time that you get a fountain pen, at least it was for me, I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to kind of persist in the hobby. And one of the first few pens which I bought in my collection was these kind of cheap fountain pen, the Lamy Safari clones. I believe these were for Jinhao, at least some of them were. And I'm not even sure what the designation for the pen was. I could be wrong, but it could be like the 599 or something like that. And these pens were some of the first few pens which I started using. And that was like more than about 2 years ago. In general, these pens are very inexpensive. They are like less than $1, at least where I live here in Singapore. They didn't last me very long in terms of my fountain pen curiosity or the need to know more about fountain pens. The nibs aren't they work, but they aren't very fulfilling in terms of the feel that they provide when writing. However, I decided at that time to persist in the cheaper range of fountain pens, which is why, as you can see, I just have a selection of Chinese fountain pens which I kind of accumulated over the years. And these are, I'm not going to go through every one of them. These are from companies like Wing Sung. This is a vacuum filler, it's 3013. And a couple of them actually are homages or clones of the old Parker 51s. This one is by Jinhao, it's the 51A. And by no means I'm saying that these pens were bad purchases. This one is also Wing Sung, if I'm not wrong. This one is it's a very popular model. I think it's a 992 by Jinhao. And I kind of was satisfied with having lots and lots of different pens. These are not the only pens that I have from Chinese manufacturers. I have a lot more, but I guess the point of buying these pens was actually for quantity more than quality. These pens are good, don't get me wrong, but there will be quality problems if you wanted to rely on these fountain pens for day-to-day use. And I've kind of kept some horror stories or of these pens where this is a 992 which the cap just cracked off, not because I was careless with it or whether or not I dropped it or anything like that. It's just decided to kind of break one day. And this is 3013, which just decided to crack on the top of the cap as well. You notice that the plastics that they use aren't exactly the best. It will just tend to melt. Even if there's a little hint of moisture or ink in the cap, they would just kind of tend to disintegrate. So not trying to dissuade you from buying Chinese pens, but just be aware that in general, a lot of these Chinese pens out here, they are made of pretty brittle plastics. They don't actually, they might not, I'm not saying they won't, but they might not provide the best writing experience in terms of feel and softness and bounce and all that. Generally, they behave well, but they aren't kind of, probably these are like the lower end Chinese pens. I think none of these pens are more than $5, right? If you wanted to go higher up in the Chinese pen lineup, so these are Jinhaos and Wingsangs predominantly. If you wanted to go higher up, one level higher, what I found, and I think a lot of, by the way, when we talk about Chinese pens, I cannot ignore speaking about the X159, which I believe it's a very, very good purchase for a first fountain pen by Jinhao. These go for about 5 to 6 Singapore dollars here in Singapore. Give this one a try. However, the jury is out whether or not it's reliable or not. But in terms of pen nib feel and writing, feel in the hand, X159 is a good one. But as I was saying earlier on, if you wanted to go higher up, one level, one rung up in terms of Chinese pens, and if you wanted to kind of explore that country pen-wise, I would say that the Moonman, or right now I think it's called Mahjong range of pens, probably is something that you might want to kind of explore. Generally, Moonman or Mahjong pens are pretty well built. They are typically made of tougher, this is the M2, it's possibly made of acrylic. Even the T1, which is made from an aluminum alloy of some sort, it's a piston filler, and it's a pretty reliable pens. I've had these for coming to 2 years now and haven't really given me much problems. This is another Moonman which is very popular, at least when it first got launched, is the M800 with the Bock nib. All these pens work well. They're pretty reliable. The nibs are nothing to kind of shout home about, but pretty reliable, good ink flow, and it'll probably last you for a while, right? And if you wanted to kind of move even higher up in the Chinese pen range, we have the Pen BBS, which I would guess for most of the pen people out there, they would probably acknowledge as kind of the upper echelon of fountain pens made by a Chinese manufacturer. This is the 355, and this is the 456, and there are many other models by Pen BBS. Not too many to be listed down here, but these come at a price. Even the Moonman's price has kind of gone up. When I bought this Moonman 2 years back, it was like $15, $20, I can't remember, but the price definitely has gone up for Moonman and Mahjong. And for Pen BBS, be prepared to pay like $40, $50, that type of price to get a pen of this quality. So the Pen BBS, that pens, typically the higher end ones are all made of acrylic. They typically are more robustly built compared to something like a TWSBI, for example. So the next country which I wanted to explore is actually Taiwan, and recently I featured a pen from a Taiwanese manufacturer called Opus 88, and it's not the first Taiwanese manufacturer which I got acquainted to. Obviously, the first one that I got acquainted to was actually TWSBI, and I'd say that generally Taiwanese fountain pen brands, the two that I actually have pens for are actually TWSBI and Opus 88. They are generally one step up in terms of design, right? They are very big in design compared to, in terms of original designs maybe, compared to the Chinese manufacturers. Like for example, this one is pretty original looking, right? This is a special edition by Stilo E Steel, but Looking at the TWSBIs, after I've actually used some of the Chinese fountain pens, the next manufacturer I went up to was actually TWSBI, and I kind of embraced them in a very big way. I bought the Eco, I bought the Go, I bought the 580 and the VAC 700R, and my last purchase from TWSBI was actually the Swipe. And I think generally the prices have actually gone up over the last 2 years for TWSBI as well. An Eco would probably cost you about the 30 plus, slightly over 30 US dollars now. The one level down in terms of price from the TWSBI range would be the Swipe at about 20 something dollars. I think if I'm not wrong, the Go is still one of the cheapest pens in the TWSBI range. That's probably about 15 to kind of $20. 580 and the VAC are definitely up there in terms of price. I would say that some of us who are kind of still at work, we use fountain pens in meeting customers and so on. The Ecos are pretty much a little bit kiddish in terms of their designs. I love the design of the Eco, but if I pulled out this pen in the meeting and started writing with it, unless I was an architect or something like that, it's just a little bit funky. Swipe maybe is a little bit more mature looking. I would say out of the TWSBI line, at least the pens that I have, these two, the 580 and the VAC 700, would be, nobody would blink an eye if you pulled this out and started using this in a meeting, right? It looks very professional, it's very well built, and probably won't raise many eyebrows. In terms of why did I choose these models from TWSBI, it's probably because TWSBI to me has always been a brand about the transparent, the demonstrator type look. I wasn't that keen on the other models by TWSBI that weren't transparent. Just leave it at that. And in terms of the mini models, I've always been very keen on the mini models, which is why I left 2 slots of this pen case ready for them. It's just that I've kind of outgrown mini fountain pens a little bit, so I'm still thinking about whether or not to kind of add to my TWSBI collection. So we will move on to some other manufacturers while I'm here, and we've seen the clones by Chinese Lamy Safari type clones. The next pen manufacturer, or rather the country which I wanted to speak about, give me a minute here, is obviously the German manufacturers. And out of the German manufacturers out there, there are 2 that probably stand out, 2 or 3, right? The first one was actually Lamy, of course. I bought a couple of Lamy Safaris in different nib widths. My particular favorite is actually the Vista version, transparent version. I would say that as far as an introduction to Lamy goes, these are pretty good. The nibs aren't exactly the best out there. I mean, they are efficient. They don't, even though they might dry out, all you need to do is just dip the nib into a smidgen of water, and that gets them started. Nibs aren't that kind of inspiring to use, but they are reliable pens and they are made pretty sturdily. They don't break easily. The other Lamy which I have is actually the 2000, and I think this is a great buy for people who want a step up, something that's very adult-like, right, in feel. And when using this nib is actually pretty juicy and wet and has a little bit of character compared to the other Lamys that I have. Obviously, there are other pens by Lamy I didn't really feel compelled to kind of explore those. So those are the only pens that I have, and I think any of these would be great to kind of start off in your fountain pen exploration. So moving on, just wanted to, the other brand which I think should get a mention when it comes to German pens is definitely Kaweco. And unfortunately, my Kaweco pens are all over the place in various different fountain, not just fountain pen cases, but pen cases everywhere. But I would, I bought the Kaweco Sports, Skyline, as well as the Paceo, and those were all very good choices. The other fountain pen brand from Germany, which I feel that you need to consider, is actually Faber-Castell. I didn't go very far exploring the Faber-Castell range besides the Loom. I think these are like kind of the be-all and end-all for me when it comes to Faber-Castell. They have other models, obviously the Ambition. They have a like a wooden one, which is called the Ondoro, I believe, which I was interested in at the beginning, but I feel that the Loom is actually probably the only Faber-Castell which I would kind of invest money on for now. And last but not least, in terms of German brands, we obviously cannot avoid speaking about Mont Blanc. So a lot of people think that Mont Blanc is actually a Swiss company because of the Mont Blanc up there. Mont Blanc is obviously located in Switzerland, but basically Mont Blanc is a German company. And I would say that generally, and I also have the fountain pen, which kind of kickstart my Mont Blanc journey. I would say that generally their pens aren't the best when it comes to buying new. I would say that if you wanted to explore the world of Mont Blanc, these are the three Meisterstücks. There are other models which I was briefly interested to get. One of them which always kind of piques my interest is actually the 221, as well as other older Mont Blanc like the number 14. But I would say that generally for Mont Blanc, if these interest you, buy them used, do not buy them new. Try them out, get their nibs tuned, and generally these are pretty reliable pens with good writing experience. The next brand which I want to speak about is actually from the manufacturer from Japan, and that's the company Sailor. So outside of Germany and possibly maybe America, Japan is probably one of the most prolific in terms of fountain pen making, right? So these are some of the fountain pens which I have from Sailor out there. So Sailor is typically, I would say, it's kind of on par with Platinum in terms of their fountain pen line. I've only gotten the Pro Gear version of their pens. This is the Pro Gear Slim, this is the Pro Gear Standard 1 for 21K, and this is the Pro Gear King of Pen. I would say that generally the characteristics of the Sailor's nibs are fairly similar. They write with a kind of pencil-y feel, probably the most pencil-y and felt tipped pen feel that you could ever get. They are generally made pretty well. I would say that for most of the time, you get good ink flow, you get good experience writing on paper. The general downside to Sailors is the fact that they use these converters. I've typically not have very bad experience with those small little converters, but they do have a very small capacity, and sometimes I've not experienced it myself, but some of them might possibly leak. So just be aware of those when it comes to Sailor. Pretty nice, it's very beautiful pens, but probably not the it's not definitely not the most popular of the Japanese fountain pen manufacturers. From Sailor to Platinum, I only have the 3776 and the President. I also have the Procyon range. Just trying to find it. I have a couple of Procyons, a couple of Plaisirs, and so on. And these, generally, I would say that for Platinum, incidentally, the converters for all these pens actually have a common converter system, which is nice. They all use a converter, something like this. This is a typical platinum converter, and they all work well. I wouldn't say that I have any kind of great affinity or feeling about platinum in general. Their nibs are actually, especially the 3776 fine ones, have even more feedback than Sailor. And if you like feedback, definitely explore them. And my table is quickly running out of space to put pens. But in terms of my favorite pen from Platinum, it's definitely the Preppy range, right? So I have a lot of them. Normally I would fill them out in the cartridge, which these pens come with. These are pretty nice cartridges, pretty robustly built ones with a ball in the middle, and they are pretty sturdy. Sometimes I would use a converter in them. And without hesitation, if anyone were to ask me if you have a student in the family, or even if you are a student yourself, I would never hesitate to recommend the 0.2, or if you like a slightly thicker nib, the 0.3 of the Preppy as your starting fountain pen. But probably the biggest, and these are fairly affordable. These are like $2, $3, $4 here in Singapore. You can have a lot of them and kind of still not blow the budget in a way. The last brand, sorry, I think I missed out one more German brand before I get to the last brand, which I wanted to focus on. And that's actually Pelican. In terms of one German fountain pen manufacturer, which I feel that you kind of have to look at, it's actually Pelican, right? So basically this is some of the Pelican pens that I have in my collection. It's a 200, 600. These three are from the Sovereign range. This is an M800. I'll take that away not to confuse. And this is the 1000, M1000. So I mean, any of these pens, these are not cheap pens, but any of these pens would be excellent recommendations for anyone who wanted to get into fountain pens. What I did was I started off with the M200 and I went up the line. I would say out of all of these, my favorite general purpose pen is actually the M800. I'm not sure why I missed Pelican in my German roundup, but that's what I did. And in terms of the last pen manufacturer which I wanted to go through today, which I think it's not a surprise for anyone who has been following my channel, and that's actually Pilot pen, right? So I feel that Pilot has the most options when it comes to their fountain pens that they produce. They have fountain pens which, like the Cocoon or the Metropolitan, are tailored for people who are just getting into the hobby, willing to pay about the $20 to $30 range in terms of their budget. And they also have other pens like the Vanishing Point, which caters for people who want to be on the go. They have that one and only piston filler, which is the Custom Heritage 92. And many more pens, right, from them. And I've accumulated probably my biggest chunk of my fountain pen collection is actually by Pilot. I'm not going to pull all of my Pilot pens out there, but basically you can't go wrong if you go with Pilot. One Pilot pen which I feel should be one of your first to consider if you are getting into the hobby, or at least add this one into your collection early on, is actually this pen, which is the Pilot Parallel pen. It's actually a calligraphy nib, right? And the reason why I think this is a good choice is because even though it's cheap and plasticky, this one has the 1.5 millimeter tip or the nib. It's a very well designed pen, and even if you're not into calligraphy, the reason why I would say get this as part of your collection early on is because of the things which come with this pen. And I'm trying to find on my table what I wanted to talk about. But basically this pen, the Parallel, comes with this little device down here. This device is actually meant for you to insert down here to clean out the nib of the Parallel. However, this gadget is perfect for washing out and cleaning out nearly all of the Pilot pens that you have, and sometimes even the non-Pilot pens that you have in your collection. So it's a free cleaning tool for you to use. The other thing which the Pilot Parallel provides, and I'm just going to cap this up, is actually this little kind of a shim piece of plastic, basically, which is perfect for the case that if you needed to do a little bit of cleaning in between the slit of your fountain pen. This is a very handy thing, which I'm not sure how much is the Parallel, but if you get one of those, you'll be, you have a little mini cleaning kit provided with it. And I don't need to say, I mean, most of the Pilots, you are pretty much restricted to a Con 40 or Con 70. Both are not the best converters out there, but they'll do fine because there is no perfect converter system out there. And I feel that their range is kind of one of the most appealing to me brand-wise. So I think I've spoken enough. Hope you have a little bit of an idea of what I feel about fountain pen brands in my collection. I probably have left out some other brands like the Italian brands and the French brands and American brands. Perhaps I'll do that in another video for another day. I'll leave the video at this point. Again, let me know your comments, whether if you have any favorite fountain pens by brand that you would recommend to beginners. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you in the next video. Have fun shopping, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.